Look closely at a modern commercial environment, and you will see a relentless, chaotic flood of digital advertisements, pop-ups, and billboards. For most consumers, this volume of promotion quickly fades into background static. Corporate culture often treats the marketing discipline as an end-of-the-pipe megaphone, a purely tactical department responsible for executing ad campaigns and driving immediate sales. Management defines marketing as the organization's market-facing intelligence system. Modern business environments are highly volatile. Customer preferences drift, competitors deploy new technologies, and markets are flooded with massive amounts of unorganized data. To navigate this volatility, a firm must systematically bridge its internal objectives, like revenue targets and growth metrics, with the external realities of the market. This bridge operates at three distinct elevations. At the corporate level, it identifies avenues for market entry and growth. At the business unit level, it selects specific customer targets. At the functional level, it translates those decisions into precise product design, pricing, and distribution. Strategic marketing functions as a rigorous pipeline. It takes the chaotic data of the external environment and converts it into precise, actionable market positioning. Tactical marketing budgets spent without this underlying intelligence architecture result in isolated noise without strategic direction. Strategy begins by mapping the external constraints and catalysts that exist outside the building. This process is called environmental scanning. Managers use a layered model, starting at the macro general environment, stepping down to industry structure, direct competitors, and finally the firm itself. The outermost macro layer uses the PESTEL framework, tracking political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal forces shaping the market. The objective of the marketer is to observe a signal in the data, interpret its impact, and translate it into corporate action. An economic signal like rising inflation indicates consumers are becoming price-sensitive. This insight allows the firm to launch a value-based product line before competitors react. Below the macro layer sits the specific industry environment, which dictates the structural attractiveness of a given market. To measure the competitive pressure inside this ring, organizations utilize Porter's 5 forces. This evaluates factors like the bargaining power of suppliers, the threat of new entrants, and the availability of substitute products. High customer demand does not guarantee a viable business. If barriers to entry are low and buyers hold immense negotiating power, the industry structure will erode profit margins regardless of product quality. Environmental scanning prevents a company from dropping products into market structures that are inherently hostile to profitability. Once the environment is mapped, the intelligence system decodes the specific actors operating within it, the buyers. Buyer architecture divides into 2 distinct operational models: consumer, or B2C, and business-to-business, known as B2B. The consumer pathway is driven by psychological factors and social proof. It typically follows a 5-step sequence: recognizing a need, searching for information, evaluating alternatives, making a purchase decision, and experiencing post-purchase satisfaction or regret. The B2B reality is governed by derived demand. An organization only purchases supplies, software, or machinery because there is downstream demand for the final products they produce. Compare the isolated consumer decision journey to the multi-node complexity of a corporate purchase. Enterprise sales operate through the buying center, a specialized committee made up of end users, technical influencers, financial approvers, and gatekeepers who control the flow of information. A company delivering healthy meals demonstrates this difference in action. Selling to an individual consumer relies on personal metrics. They evaluate the food's taste, the subscription's price, and the delivery's convenience. Pitching that identical menu as a corporate wellness package changes the evaluation criteria. Procurement officers negotiate the contract terms. HR checks for regulatory compliance. Finance demands a return on investment, and employees judge the actual usability. Misidentifying the buyer architecture leads to failure. A B2B sale requires mitigating systemic risk for a committee. It cannot be approached like a consumer impulse purchase. Environmental and buyer intelligence yield no advantage if an organization lacks a mechanism to focus its resources. The STP framework acts as an industrial filter for market data. The first stage is segmentation. Here, the broad market is sliced into distinct groups using demographic traits, geographic locations, psychographic lifestyles, and behavioral patterns. While demographics like age and income are easy to measure, actual buying behavior and needs-based data provide managers with the highest strategic utility. The second stage is targeting. Organizations evaluate the viability of these segments, prioritizing them based on size, growth potential, and profitability, while rejecting segments they cannot effectively serve. Depending on available capital, the firm chooses a resource allocation strategy. They can deploy a mass market approach, differentiate offers for multiple groups, concentrate entirely on a niche, or execute hyper-specific micromarketing. The final output is positioning. This is the process of designing the specific offer and establishing the precise mental space the brand will occupy for those chosen buyers. Strong positioning establishes a clear, defensible identity relative to the specific competitors identified back in the scanning phase. The STP filter forces operational discipline. It prevents an organization from diluting its capital and brand identity by attempting to serve everyone. Once the strategic positioning is locked, the organization shifts to execution, deploying the physical and digital marketing mix. Modern execution relies on the digital ecosystem: search engine marketing, social media content, e-commerce platforms, and customer relationship management systems. Modern digital tools function as high-fidelity data-gathering instruments. CRM systems and analytics dashboards track exact conversion rates and calculate the precise lifetime financial value of targeted customers. This creates a closed-loop system. Digital execution feeds empirical data directly back into the environmental radar. Analytics generated from execution update the firm's environmental assumptions. They provide real-time adjustments to the organization's understanding of buyer behavior and competitor tactics. The marketing planning process functions as a continuous, evidence-based loop. Organizations scale by engineering a rigorous, market-facing intelligence system that continuously adapts to reality.